Before I begin this video, I want to apologize for the really long wait. After the release of part 8, life got kinda busy for me and I found it really hard to work on this video series, so my plans for making this video a monthly series became not so monthly. So I do apologize if you were waiting for part 9 or thought that I gave up on this series. Never before seen Power Ranger Monsters isn't cancelled. I just need to figure out a schedule when I can sit down, write the script, record the video, and edit it. So, I do apologize for the really long wait for part 9. So with that out of the way, let's talk about some Super Sentai monsters that never appeared in Power Rangers. So we're finally at part 9, and in today's video we'll be covering monsters that appeared in Deca Ranger and Magi Ranger, but never appeared in Power Rangers. So, if you're a Power Rangers fan, then you'll know these seasons as SPD and Mystic Force. Now, SPD is a great season. Everyone loves SPD. Well, most of the people I talk to love SPD. And Mystic Force, well, Mystic Force is great in its own ways. I didn't grow up on these seasons. I saw bits and pieces of them on Jetix Australia that aired on free-to-air TV, so the schedule for these shows were all over the place, so I didn't really watch them until Netflix came to Australia and I was able to binge Power Ranger series I missed out on. But the Sentai counterparts I haven't seen in its entirety. I've seen bits and clips and pieces, but I haven't seen their retrospective series. But I've heard good things about them, especially Deca Ranger, and especially Magi Ranger, so I definitely want to check them out later down the line, and if Shout Factory does eventually release them on DVD, then I will watch them. Alright, so let's talk about some Power Ranger monsters we never got to see. Alright, first up isn't really a monster, it's a person. Ranger Wiki just has him listed as a monster, and seeing how the character is a Japanese actor, you can understand why he was skipped, because he was meant to be some kind of scientist, nothing too important, just a villain of the week that the Deca Rangers faced, and seeing how the guy was just a regular civilian, a Japanese actor, you can probably guess why this guy was skipped, and probably hard to work around his footage. Okay, so let's talk about the actual monsters, and there's not many of them when it comes to Deca Rangers, so not many monsters were cut from Deca Ranger moving over to SPD, roughly about only 3 were cut, so that's not too much of an extreme number. So, first up is Tek Awan Raja Namanan. I do apologize if I butchered that name. These monsters have some really hard names to pronounce. So, looking at the wiki for the bio of this character, you can probably understand why this guy was skipped, because this guy killed someone. He was a killer. Not only that, he also had 100 charges of burglary. Plus, the episode was kind of a murder case, so I can understand why Disney probably didn't want to adapt this episode. It would have been too violent and probably difficult to ride around with the whole murder plot going for it. So this guy is Don Blackor. He's not as cool as this Don or that Don, so I don't know what to say about this guy because he doesn't have a very detailed wiki page, so I honestly don't know why he was skipped, but looking at his costume and how he looks, he probably doesn't fit the whole vibes that SPD has going for it. Now, last monster that never appeared in Power Rangers SPD, I can kind of guess why this monster went unused, because this guy was used for the final arc of Deca Ranger and appeared in the penultimate episode. Now, SPD already had their own original villains like Ram and the A-Squad Rangers, so they probably didn't need to adapt this guy, but fun fact, his costume was reused in Dino Charge as a background character in one of Sledge's jail cells. So now we're at Mystic Force and Magi Ranger. Now, there was roughly about 8 monsters from Magi Ranger that never made it into Mystic Force. Why? I don't know, because I've never seen the Sentai. But I can throw in a few speculations, and one of my main guesses is probably due to the low episode count that Mystic Force has. While Magi Ranger is roughly about 50 episodes, Mystic Force is only 32. So I'm guessing there was some monsters that didn't make the card for obvious reasons that we've talked about on this channel, such as violence, too much Japanese human footage, and stuff like that. But not only that, just like how I talked about with SBD, Mystic Force did have its own original stories going on that probably found it difficult to adapt these monsters. So let's go over these monsters and why they never made the cut into Power Rangers Mystic Force. Now, most of this is going to be speculation on my part from reading their wiki. First up is Hades Beast Fungus. Now the whole premise of this monster is he released deadly spores and then people turn the dust and they eventually die. So I haven't seen the episode. I'm guessing this guy had a lot of human footage where he would turn people into spores and they'd end up getting turned to dust and dying. So it would have been really hard to adapt this monster, I'm guessing. But not only that, the whole death concept might have been a hard thing for Disney to work around. Next up is Hades Beast Manticore. Now this monster is kind of a silly one because he forces people to dance, and this is where that famous meme or gif of the two Rangers dancing comes from. So this episode was probably too wacky and goofy for them to adapt into Mystic Force. Alright, so Hades Beast Ogre. This one's an interesting one because he's meant to be this ultimate fighter that wants to fight people and win, but he wasn't adapted into Mystic Force. But his concept of the episode was adapted into Xander Petrified, where he would fight a different monster, but not this one. Next up is Spectre. Now, this one is a weird looking CGI monster, so I can easily guess why they skipped this. It didn't really work to be adapted. Alright, then we have Hades Beastman Gaston the Thief, and this guy is a weird looking bondage monster. I can see why they skipped this guy just by looking at his appearance. Alright, then we have Beastman Kirakage the Ninja. This guy looks really cool. It sucks that he was skipped because he's got this ninja vibe and these swords going for him. It's a shame that he was never adapted into Mystic Force because he looks really freaking cool. And lastly, we have Hades Fungal Beast Mold, which was this weird fungus beast mold that sort of works with the whole theme of Super Sentai with how they film stuff in their camera angles, but it would have not worked for Power Rangers Mystic Force. And then lastly, we have Ultra Hades Beast Living Sword that was a movie exclusive villain, and like I brought up before on this series, movie villains usually get the shaft because it's a whole different rights thing. And when we get to Geki Ranger, oh boy, there's a lot of movie villains we're going to be talking about when we get to Geki Ranger / Jungle Fury. So those were the monsters that never made the cut into Power Rangers Mystic Force and SBD. Next time, in part 10, we'll be covering monsters that never appeared in Operation Overdrive and Jungle Fury, and these are some very interesting monsters that never made the cut. So, with that said, I'm going to bring this video to a close. What do you guys think of these monsters that never made the cut into Power Rangers? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Why do you think they were cut? Or, if you've seen the Sentai, tell me in the comment section down below what their episodes were about and why they were cut. So, with that said, thanks for watching, have a wonderful day or night, and I will see you guys later. Peace out, take care, bye!